to the PressWarp.com. This is our first audio update, and there'll be plenty more to come. What we're going to do here on the PressWarp, this is just the introduction of what we are going to cover, what the purpose is, what our stated goal is. Our stated goal is to cut through the lies of the establishment mainstream media press. And it's really not even mainstream anymore. They like to call themselves mainstream, but in reality, they're just a bunch of paid corporate interest behind the scenes pushing their agendas, mainly CNN, Fox, MSNBC. You know the main outlets that are pushing their agendas. And then they're casting aside some of the important, relevant items that they do not want you to know about. Some things that you would notice if you're awake watching either CNN, Fox News, whatever, you notice and you see the spin. But the problem is a lot of people don't see this spin. And this is where we as alternative media outlets have to step to the plate and make the people realize that it's not everything as it appears. Everything is not as what it seems. And of course, most of you who are listening probably already know this. We're trying to reach new people. We're trying to reach a new demographic to bring in so that we can change the course of history before it's too late. One of the things I wanted to bring up with the establishment press and their censorship, and I know most of you have probably already seen this. This was during the Iowa caucus last week, where the soldier was interviewed by CNN, and he was starting to talk about Ron Paul's foreign policy in regards to the Iranian conflict, and he was talking about to the CNN reporter if we should be engaged in further wars, and the reporter, within her spin, she brings up, because they do have talking points. And, well, don't you think it's dangerous that Ron Paul has a foreign policy that will get us out of the Middle East and end all these endless wars? And then as a soldier begins talking, he starts talking about how Israel is able to defend themselves and how we don't need to be entangled in all these wars in the Middle East and how it's not serving the United States' interest. Well, as soon as he starts talking about how Israel can defend itself, you can see where they start to cut the feed. And then, of course, they go to Wolf Blitzer, and he says, oh, well, we lost the feed. But what's most striking about this is you can actually see in the background, because this is where, if you're awake and you're paying attention, you can point out these little details and see exactly what's going on. You can see some of these crony, false, loving establishment type that they supposedly care about the civil liberties and freedoms of our society, and they're supposed to be non-biased, but you see them in the background, and you see them joking about cutting the feed, like you see one kind of typing on a computer, like cutting the feed, like it's some kind of joke, like it's some kind of joke to be involved in the big game, in the big lie. It's fun. And it's just really disgusting and sick. But we are going to be exposing a lot of that. And it's really not that hard. All I'm doing is just looking at the news, looking at some of the establishment press's news releases, and just reading it. And it's really not that hard to pick out all of the lies and misinformation that's in there. So a lot of that will be coming up here. A lot of things I'll have on the website too is because supporting the cause, if you support the cause, you support Ron Paul. That's just the way it is. There is no other candidate that is running right now in the Republican Party that comes anywhere close to being supportive of the Constitution like Ron Paul, or who even has a record such as Ron Paul. A non-swaying record. You just go back, just go and just research Ron Paul if you do not know much about him, and you will see he says the same things today he says 25 years ago. And that says something, because every other candidate has some kind of issue where they're flip-flopping on something and they're just telling you what they want you to hear, especially Mitt Romney. He is about as bad as Obama, if not maybe even a little worse. And here we're going to be in the same situation in 2016 if Mitt Romney is elected. And we will be further along down the line, because he will just only further embolden the establishment and further their program of destroying the Constitution. And that is their stated plan, is to destroy our freedom and civil liberties. You'll be sitting here again in 2016 wondering, where's the change? What has changed? Why has nothing changed? Again. It's the same game that plays over and over again. But then you have this guy, Ron Paul. Oh, well, he's way off on the fringe. Well, maybe you should really think about what your idea of fringe is. What is your idea of how the government should work? Do you want the government to be in your life in every aspect, or do you want it to back out and let the people and the states decide their destinies? And that's basically all of Ron Paul is about. His whole foreign policy is basically about limiting the government, because the more we expand our wars and endless aggravated assaults on all these sovereign nations, the more we have to expand the police state here at home, because we're concerned about the terrorism threat. And losing our freedoms over the possibility of something to happen, it's not leading down a very good road. So, just stay informed, stay tuned to PressWarp.com. We'll have more information, we'll have more audio updates, we'll be expanding. I encourage everybody to send me some of their input on as to how you'd like to see this progress, because it's very important that we get feedback from you as the readers and the keepers of this information. Some of you will have news tips, some of you will have information that we don't know where to find information. It's going to be a vast network of people coming together with their information and knowledge. And how do we bring the message out to the general public? A lot of this is using social media, but we'll get on to working with those as we go along in the future. Like some of the things that I'm not even familiar with is Twitter. I know how to use Facebook a little more than Twitter. I actually think Twitter is a little bit ridiculous, but it's there. It's a tool to use. I just find it ridiculous that people actually go on there and follow people that aren't even relevant to anything in their life. But, I mean, if they're following people that have some resemblance of sanity, I guess that's okay. If they're following a individual like Ron Paul, Judge Napolitano, or any people like that, I guess that would be okay. But I see some of these people following these drugged up rappers that make absolutely no sense, and why they would want to even associate themselves with the thought process of what goes on in that world. It's just a dumbed down culture that makes absolutely no sense, and that is what is wrong with this population today. A lot of people really are starting to understand this. It's just the mindset needs to be changed in this country. Reality is not as what it seems, and people really have a hard time grasping that concept, that their reality is not really reality. It's a programmed reality brought to them by the establishment press, programmed into them over the years, and it's really hard to break that conditioning. But once it's done, you see the fire light up in their eyes, and they really start to look around, and then you can see all the signs. Because once you're awakened outside of this mainstream establishment poor press culture that we have going on today, you will begin to realize what is really important. You'll begin to realize the lies and what the agenda really is. So we'll also be covering the history and how we got to this point. So I'll be going over all these details here within the future. So just keep checking back every day. I'll be posting new audio updates. So just check back. All right, well, thank you for your time, your support. Check out PressWarp.com. Give me your feedback. I greatly appreciate it. We'll be trying to expand it and grow it to the opinions of what we get back and feedback. Okay, thank you.